My name is Manpreet Diol, and I'm studying engineering at the University of Calgary at the Schulich School of Engineering, and I'm in my first year. Being born and raised in Vancouver, I definitely wanted to move somewhere else, to get the full experience that really makes you mature and gain those responsibility skills and just leadership skills in general. Being a Schulich Leader has introduced me to this fabulous network of amazing individuals that are, changing society for the better. There's so many opportunities in Calgary, and yeah, I'm excited for the rest of my years here.
My name is Janica Chavez, and I'm studying mechanical engineering at the Schulich School of Engineering. I'm definitely thankful to be a Schulich Leader here at the University of Calgary. Having the scholarship really opened my mind to realize that even if you're young, there's so much more that you can do.
This just gives me so much freedom to explore my ideas, and I might not have had time to do that if I had to work a part-time job. My name is Bruce Gao, and I'm currently a first-year medical student at the Cummings School of Medicine. When I was in high school, I visited an orphanage in China. I realized that the solar panels on their roof were misaligned. And I tried to write a computer program to calculate the best angle for them. Me, along with my friend Matt Frivman, worked really hard to teach ourselves how to make a mobile app because we wanted to let people use their phones to align their solar panels.
One of my future goals definitely is to help other people in developing nations by bringing them technology. These can include water sanitation and energy.
I'm looking into fields that tie medicine and technology together and have the potential for innovation. I would love to run some sort of biotech company or some sort of entrepreneurial venture.
This scholarship isn't just a means to finish a degree, but it's a means to actually fulfill dreams that you originally had.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Joel May, and I'm the Assistant Registrar here at the University of Calgary. I'm just going to start a quick poll just to ensure that you can hear me. So please complete the poll. Just give me a second here. You should see a poll on your right side there. If you can hear me, just click yes. I see 100% so far, which is a great thing. Sometimes with any technology, you might have some issues. So I see a lot of yeses. So that's a good sign. So I'll end the poll now. And then I'm just going to start a couple other polls before we start, just so I understand who's here and who's not here. So here's the next poll. Awesome. I think everybody's done that. So it looks like Calgary's in the lead. There's 72%, 6% are from other parts of Alberta, 5% are from another province, and we got 15% of you are from internationally, which is amazing. I'll just end that poll. And I just have one more just to get an understanding. If you've applied for admissions yet. Oh, I noticed a spelling error. I put it's UCalgary, not Calgary. So. Awesome. I'll just end the poll. It looks like 57% of you have applied for admissions already. 3% are applying today, which is amazing too. And then 30% have not yet, but will soon. And then 7 are still thinking about it. So maybe this presentation will actually help you determine that, which is amazing. University of Calgary is a great institution if you're still on the fence, but you have to make that decision. So before I start my presentation, I just want to recognize that the University of Calgary is located in Calgary in southern Alberta, and it's the traditional territory of the Treaty 7 people, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, which is the Piikani, the Siksika, and the Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nations and the Stoney Nakoda, which include the Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Wesley First Nations. The City of Calgary and Southern Alberta is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. And the City of Calgary was built on the confluence of the Bow and the Elbow River, and the traditional Blackfoot name of that territory or that area is Mohkinstsis. So without further ado, I'm just going to bring up my slides. So I hope everybody can see that. If somebody just wants to say in the chat, yes, that they can see the high school awards overview and tips for a stronger application, that'd be great. If somebody could just pop it in the chat saying, yes, they can see it. Oh, I got some yeses. Perfect. I just wanted to make sure before I start. Awesome. Thank you so much for being great participants so far. So I'm just going to turn off my video as I go through the presentation. As I put in the chat at the top, you can enter your questions. I might not be able to get to them till closer to the end of the presentation. The presentation should be probably about an hour in order to complete all the slides and go through every single page. Julio, before I start, it is recorded and it will be posted on the Choose UCalgary site. So it will be there later, but we'll go through it. And without further ado, I'll turn off my camera and go forward. So as I said before, this is high school awards, overview and tips for a stronger application. What we're looking at today is I'll start with an overview of high school awards. So some stats, the different types of awards, how to apply, kind of tips for applying. I'm going to touch on the prestige reference form because we don't actually need it, so I will touch on that. Deadlines after you've applied, and then some other options. And then I will, at the end, I'll focus on kind of some financial aid options, as well as our financial literacy program here at the University of Calgary, and then kind of give you a roadmap of what you're looking at as you progress. So a quick overview of high school awards. So in this current year right now, we've given over $20 million to University of Calgary students. For this incoming fall, there was over 1,700 students, entering students who received awards for a total over $6 million. And then the volume of applications we get just for high school awards is we had 3,608 for this last fall. So the volume of applications isn't quite as high as we'd like it to see, or like to see it, for the amount of awards that we actually provide. So when I talk about awards here at the University of Calgary, it can be confusing for some students. Most people think of scholarships, but we do have scholarships, and scholarships are high achieving awards where the selection is primarily based on academic merit. But we also have bursaries as well, so where the selection is based primarily on financial need. And then we have awards, which are kind of a mixture of things. Lastly, we have prizes, which for entering students aren't very impactful because there aren't any, but prizes, the selection's based on a final mark in a course or an assignment. You'll receive those as a continuing student usually. So, but when I'm at the University of Calgary, when we talk about awards, we group everything together. So if I say awards, it could mean a scholarship, could mean a bursary, and our applications usually fit that as well. So when you apply for our high school awards application, you might be eligible for some bursaries that are available, some awards, some scholarships. Just so you understand, awards is kind of synonymous with all three. So here at the University of Calgary, we have a grouping of awards, and we have a specific application for high school prestige awards. The value is quite high, so they range anywhere from $39,450 all the way up to $100,000. They require that you submit a prestige award application, so I'll show you how that application. You may be required, depending on what you've applied for and what your faculty you're going into, to submit a supplemental application or have an actual interview. And there are deadlines for submissions. So I'll go in more detail about which award or prestige award requires a supplemental application or an interview in a minute here. So here's a listing of all our prestige awards. So we have our Chancellor Scholarship, which we offer 9 per year, and they're valued at $15,000 per year, and they're renewable over the next 3 years. So you're looking at $60,000 per scholarship. They are only for Canadian students, so any international students listening to this, you wouldn't be eligible for these, but there are other ones that you would be available for. Then we have the Seymour Schulich Engineering Scholarship and Award. So we have their Academic Excellence Scholarship and then their Community Service and Entrepreneurship Awards. They value anywhere from $13,150 to $26,350. And first I said 1,300, but it's 13,150. So the value difference is for Calgary area residents, you would receive the 13,150. For those outside of Calgary and internationally, it would be 26,350. They're renewable in your second and third year only. And the reason why that is because engineering pushes or promotes their internship. So a lot of students in their fourth year are often on internship. So there's no need for a scholarship award at that time. So there's that. With the Seymour Schulich Community Service and Entrepreneurship Award, for sure you would, if you are shortlisted, you would be required to come in for an interview. So that's one for an interview. For international students, we have our International Entrance Scholarship. It's increased in value for this year. Last year it was $15,000 per year, but this year it is $20,000 per year, and it's renewable for 3 years. So that means it's $80,000. There's no interview, there's no additional selection criteria. You would just go apply for Prestige Awards, and then our selection committee would review and select the top 2, because there's only 2 that are available. Then we have our NLE Leaders in Business Scholarship, and that's valued at $20,000 per year, so a total of $80,000. You would require to do an interview. You get shortlisted, and the top 3 actually have an interview for both this scholarship and the next scholarship. The next scholarship is our highest dollar value scholarship here at the University of Calgary, and it's our Richard and Lois Haskane Legacy Scholarship, valued at $25,000 per year and renewable for 3 years. So it's a total of $100,000. Then last, but definitely not least, is our Leader in Health Science. It's valued at $15,000 per year. It's for students who are going into the Bachelor of Health Science program. It's renewable for 3 years, so a total of $60,000. And by receiving this, you also get automatic admission into medicine school. So it's quite important to, if you're going into the Bachelor of Health Science, you probably should make sure you apply for Prestige Awards, because when you're completed, you might have automatic admission into med school. We also have what are called our high school awards. So that's our largest grouping of awards, and they range anywhere from $800 to $10,000. You're required to submit our high school award application, and there are deadlines for submissions. I'll go through the deadlines a little bit later. Then we also have automatic admission scholarships. So we have both our President's Admission Scholarship as well as our International Baccalaureate Scholarships. So if you're doing IB, this could be an opportunity for you. So those who are admitted with an admissions average of 95 or greater will receive a $5,000 President's Admission Scholarship. We start notifying recipients of that scholarship near the end of November, and we'll pretty much notify until August and September. With that said, if you're offered early admissions with 95%, you are required to maintain that 95% or higher average for your final admissions as well. So just make note of that. Then with our IB scholarships, they're $2,000 each. They're offered based on predicted IB scores of 35 or greater. So make sure your IB coordinator will submit your predicted IB scores by February. And if you have an IB score of 35 or greater, and you have to be completing the whole diploma, then you'll be eligible for this. It will be rescinded if your final IB diploma score is below 35 though, so you have to make sure that you maintain that. And then the IB diploma transcript, is due August 1st, 2022. So before I get into the nitty gritty of applying for awards, there's a couple questions I just want to respond to. Ahmed, I don't know exactly what's the employment rate, but I know it's around 90%. You might want to go to one of the admissions or reach out to one of our recruiters, and they'll be able to answer exactly what the employment rate for graduates is. Daniil Filipich, should I apply for prestige awards with a 92% average? Yes, you definitely should. That's a great thing. Do you sign up for the Med Award if you haven't done pre-med? Well, we don't have a pre-med program here at the University of Calgary. A lot of programs lead to medicine, so a lot of students take the Bachelor of Health Science, and that's the program that one award is for. Jordan, I don't know, there's not an exact date of early admission. Early admission is based on your grade 11 grades. They start that usually in the middle of November, and it can continue until they've actually filled all the spots. Couple more questions before I go forward. Mika asks, for the Bachelor of Health Science application, are you automatically considered for the Leader of Health Science Scholarship, or is there a separate application? You have to submit a Prestige Award application, and then there's a supplemental application that you have to submit to the Bachelor of Health Science department. So, yeah. Rita, I'll touch on this a little bit later, but you can definitely apply for awards before being accepted. The sooner you apply, the better it is, but I'll get into the deadlines and what you should do then. I'll just do two more. Can computer science students also apply for the Seymour Schulich School of Engineering Scholarship? You cannot unless you're an engineering student. You can submit the application, but you wouldn't be eligible for it because you're not an engineering student. And last two, do you have to register for admission? You have to apply for admissions before you get any scholarships or awards here at the University of Calgary. And last one, Pierre, are Prestige Awards specifically for Canadian students only or international? There's some that are for Canadian students, but there's some for international. So as an international student, make sure you apply as well. And then I will move on and I will get to the next questions after this next section. So when you apply for awards, the first thing you want to do is apply for admissions, and I knew there's quite a large percentage, over 56%, said they have applied for admissions. So you need to apply for admissions first. Once you've applied for admissions, usually it takes a day or two for you to get access to what's called your Student Center or your My UCalgary account. It's at my.ucalgary.ca. Then from there, you have the ability to access both the Prestige Award application and the High School Award application. The awards application launched right at the beginning of October. So they're already there, and in red here, I've kind of highlighted, you don't need to be admitted to apply for awards. You do have to apply for admissions, but you don't have to be accepted to apply. So how you apply, so when you log into your My UCalgary account, this is kind of what the page will look like. On the left-hand side, down at the bottom, you'll have something that looks like a $sign, and that's your My Financials. You click on your My Financials, and then you scroll down and there's a section for awards and scholarships. And that's where you click. There's a red button that says apply for undergraduate awards. This screenshot has two buttons, but you'd only be able to see the one button as an undergraduate student. Then from there, you get to our Student Financial Support Application Center. This is where you should see the award applications that you're eligible for. As I said before, there's the High School Prestige Awards, and that's what I'm going to focus on right now. So the deadline, I'll touch on this again. I'll reiterate it a couple more times. The deadline is December 1st, and this is where we have our Chancellor Scholarship, our Leaders in Health Science Scholarships, Seymour Schulich Academic Excellence Scholarship, Seymour Schulich Community Service Entrepreneurial Award, NLE Leader in Business Scholarship, Richard and Lois Haskane Legacy Scholarship, and the University of Calgary International Entrance Scholarship. So international students, you need to apply for these as well. Before you apply though, I always recommend that you gather some information before, because these are our prestige awards. They're not just for academic merit. We expect students to be involved in their high school or in their camp or in their community and bring that to the campus. So before you submit, you want to gather certain things like, do you volunteer? What community service have you done? Specific information like the dates, the position you've had, and the name of the organization. You also want to add any extracurricular activities. So if you're in music, or if you're playing sports, or you're competing as an athlete somewhere, those types of things, you want to make sure you have that information. So, and include the dates, the position, the name of the organization. These are all things that you should be thinking about before you even submit your application. Then when you start the application, the first thing you'll need to complete is your extracurricular and leadership activity. So these awards aren't primarily based on your academics. So as I said before, you really need to show what you've done in addition to academics. So what sets you apart from someone who's got 98%, you have a 98% and they have a 98%? What makes you different? And just because you have a 98% doesn't mean we're not going to select a 92% average over you if they're way more involved and they're actually making a greater impact on their campus or on their school, on their community, on the people around them. So when you're entering your extracurricular and leadership activity, please include any sport team involvement, any volunteering, any student club involvement, any student council, any affiliation with community organizations. Things to exclude: don't include employments that you have a different motivator for employment. That shouldn't be included. Anything you were paid to participate in. This is not where we want to see research publications or awards received, or any personal well-being activities. I know you might do yoga in your spare time or be very active as in weightlifting or something. If it's not actually competition, we don't want to see it. So when you submit your extracurricular and leadership activity, you must add a record for each school or community group, activity type or activity. So the application's a little bit clunky, for lack of a better term. We developed this application in 2005, and there hasn't been many upgrades to it. So you have to bear with it. So the first thing you want to do is you want to add whatever school community activity or activity description, and do that for each record. If you've done it multiple years, or each year, or if your role might have changed, you can just add a secondary area. So if the activity is the same and only your role has changed, you just have to add the new role. Then after you've submitted your extracurricular activity, then you complete your community service statement. This should better explain your extracurricular involvement. So really focus on the ones that demonstrate. So briefly describe your extracurricular activities which demonstrate community service, leadership, and/or volunteerism. Outline your contribution, the time commitment, and what you've learned as a result for participating. Try to limit it to try to be concise. I don't want to see more than 250 to 300 words in this section. This is really where you can focus on what we're looking for, and what the selection committee is looking for is what you've learned as a result for participating. How does this make you a better person, or make those around you better? And the next question is quite unique to the University of Calgary, and it's why you chose the University of Calgary. So what makes UCalgary unique to you? So we really want you to describe why you chose to study at the University of Calgary. What sets it apart from other institutions in Canada? We've tried questions like this in the past, and a lot of students, especially our students from Calgary, they indicate that it's because you're from Calgary, and we want to see something more deeper than that and a stronger response than that. Just because you're from Calgary doesn't mean you're not going to attend Mount Royal or SAIT or Bow Valley College or St. Mary's University or Ambrose University. There's lots of other institutions that you can attend here in Calgary, but why the University of Calgary? So use a maximum of 250 words and really explain why University of Calgary is the choice that you're making. The next question, I always get questions about this from applicants, but we really want you to list your top 3 achievements and why they are your top 3. So what would you consider to be your top 3 achievements or activities? Please list them and describe the impact they've had on you and others. This one's quite interesting because a lot of students in the past have asked me, so what are you looking for? And my response is always, I don't know what you've done. You have to tell me. You think about, a good way to think about this question is, if you're in class tomorrow and you look at your classmates in the classroom, what makes you better than the person sitting beside you? Because that same student could be applying for the same award that you're going for. So really, this is really your time to shine. You need to highlight your top 3 achievements and the impact they've had on you, and the impact they've had on others. So some students, maybe you worked for Habitat or volunteered for Habitat for Humanity, or you did a trip to to an orphanage or something, or you worked. Can you hear me now? Is everybody able to hear me? Testing. Good. Okay. Sorry, I just had to reset everything. Just give me 1 second. I'll start the presentation again. I know we were on page 21 because someone put that in there. Sorry about that. Sometimes this platform does that to me. but I'll quickly transition to 21 here. Thanks for bearing with me, and thanks for keeping me up to date where I should be. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. So I don't know how much I spoke to this, but I'll just go through it again. So the next section of the application, you need to indicate your top 3 achievements. So what would you consider your top 3 achievements or activities? Please list them and describe the impact they've had on you and others. Bella, yes, the webinar is still being recorded, so you should be fine. This is really your discretion. It's up to you. This is really selling yourself. So you'd really need to think of the top 3 achievements you've had in your life, and really describe the impact you've had on you and onto others. So it's really up to you. You really need, as I said before I was cut out, or maybe when I was cut out, that you have to look at your classmates and kind of think about, okay, what achievements are better than theirs? Really, you're trying this whole application. One of the biggest tips I can ever tell you for the entire application is you're selling yourself. This is an opportunity for you to say how you're better than everyone else. So I'd recommend just focusing on that. Yeah, and Pierre, your achievements can be outside of school. It doesn't have to be school. What are your top 3 achievements in your life? List them and describe the impact they've had on you. We've seen achievements across the board. Could be academic, could be through sports, could be through volunteering, could be through something from your family. Like maybe you have been responsible for your little brother for 6 years, and that could be huge for you. So yeah, so it's really up to you, and you just have to describe that impact. I'll go through the chat a little bit more in a little bit, but the next piece that you need to complete is whether or not the community service was a requirement. So is your community service or entrepreneurial activity part of a requirement at school? And if yes, what were the school requirements, and how did your involvement go beyond these requirements? This is very impactful for a lot of students I know in Calgary, because there are some community service courses in their high school. So if you're actually doing that as part of a high school course, then you really need to indicate that in this question, just so we have an understanding of whether or not it was intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated. The next few are really only for those who are looking at getting into the Schulich School of Engineering. With their awards and scholarships, there's specific questions they want in order to do the selection. And only complete them if you're going into engineering. If you're not going to engineering, if engineering is the last thought in your mind to ever do not complete this. You can just leave them blank and go forward. So the first question is, what is your motivation to get involved in community service or entrepreneurial activities? This has got to be really short and concise. It's maximum 50 words. So just be really concise with this. The next question for the Schulich School of Engineering Awards and Scholarships is why you wanted to become an engineer. So engineers are thinkers, makers, and doers. Engineers find solutions for society's biggest challenges. Describe one thing that you've done, seen, or read about that inspired you to become an engineer. So this, again, is pretty short and concise. 100 words isn't a lot. It's less than half a page. If you were going to type it out in Microsoft Word, it's about half a page. Actually just under, probably about a paragraph. Just limit it to that. The next for engineering as well is your recognition of contribution. So briefly describe any recognition you've received for your contribution to community service or entrepreneurial activities. So did you win an award? Did you receive a medal? Were you written in the newspaper? Did you get kudos from your principal? Something like that. That could happen. Before I go forward, there are a couple questions that I really want to touch on because they're actually really good questions. The first question is, can I define entrepreneurial activity a bit more? I'll touch a bit on this because there's a question really about this. Entrepreneurial activity tends to be a lot of people think of entrepreneurship and they think of like starting their own business. That's not always it. Entrepreneurial thinking and entrepreneurial activities is really looking at a world a different way and really using critical thinking skills to really solve problems that are outside of your regular realm. So whether it is start a business where you see a gap, or it's whether really looking at changing processes on how things are done to make them better for everyone else, that could be really your entrepreneurial pieces can fit in that. I'm just going to go a little bit further. So then this section, everyone who's applying, this is outside of engineering. So doesn't matter what program you're going into, we want to know what personal and intellectual interests you bring to the campus community. So what do you bring to UCalgary that will enhance the campus community? So we want you to describe 2 personal and or intellectual interests you will bring to the University of Calgary. So we really want students to enhance the campus culture. So what are you going to bring to the campus? So why should you be here? What'll make this campus better by you being here? The next is entrepreneurial thinking. I noticed I forgot to delete the bullet that was up top there, but when the entrepreneurial piece, when I think of entrepreneurial thinking, I don't just think of employment or starting a business. It's really thinking about the world in a different way and being very critical on looking at being a change agent and certain things like that. But we really want to know what entrepreneurial thinking means to you. You can go into Webster's dictionary or you can Google it and think of what entrepreneurial thinking means. We even have it posted on the UCalgary website. You just have to search for it a little bit. But we want to know what it means to you. And what entrepreneurial thinking has, the impact it has on your life and the lives of others. So this is something you really have to think about and take some time to really think of the concepts. Maybe do some research on what it is or what you think it is. But everybody has their own interpretation on it, and I don't want to just define it like I'm a librarian or I'm an expert at it. I want you to really define it. The next is the award impact statement. So we really want to know what the impact the award will have on you. So please describe, if you are lucky enough to be a recipient of our Prestige Award, what the impact it'll have. So really tell us really why we should choose you and how it'll actually impact you for your academic career or even going forward. What is the impact it might have on you, what it might have on your family. Those are the types of things we're looking for. And then really the last piece of this, our Prestige Award application, is really just clicking yes or no and it's for the Schulich School of Engineering. So if you're not going into engineering, you don't have to submit this. They just want to know that if you provided sufficient evidence for your community service and entrepreneurial talents to be eligible for their awards. So if you're not an engineering student, don't worry about this, but if you are an engineering student, make sure you have it clicked off. So I broke down each little section and gave you kind of hints and tips for those sections. A couple tips I can give for the entire application. So as I said earlier in the presentation, the software is a little bit older, so sometimes it times out if you leave it. So I recommend saving as much as you possibly can. Make sure you read over the instructions for each section. Our selection committee is really looking for quality over quantity, so that's why you want to be concise as you possibly can. Make sure that you're really focusing on not rambling on and really saying, okay, this is my activity, this is the impact it has, this is one of my top achievements, and this is why, and really being clear about it. And then you want to sell yourself. As I said before, think of it as this is a job interview for you, or what makes you better than the person sitting beside you. sell yourself and really explain how you collaborate with others. So not just sell yourself, but how you can be impactful on team. A big thing at the University of Calgary is we really focus on collaboration and making things better, making our campus great, making our city great, making the world better. So make sure you sell yourself and how you collaborate with others. Not always just saying, I did this, I did this. It could be, I was part of this and we did this. So really focus on certain things like that. The other tips I can give are write your responses in Microsoft Word, or if you're a Mac user, in Pages, or make sure you write it there, make sure your spelling is correct, your grammar is correct, and then copy and paste it into the application. You have time. I'll go into the deadlines later, but the deadline is December 1st. So if you start your application now, you'll have lots of time to make sure you have the best responses. You just have to submit by December 1st. You don't have to speed submit, so you applying today doesn't make it any better than applying on December 1st. So just make sure that you spend the time and really be thoughtful and think about your responses very, very well, and make sure that there's no spelling errors, no grammar errors, nothing like that, because that will actually be noticed in our shortlisting. And then when it goes to the selection committee, it could be that attention to detail that's missing that gets you a scholarship or award. So before I go on to the second application that you'll need to submit, our high school awards, I'm just going to quickly go through a few of the questions. So I'll do it really quickly. The question is, what if engineering is your second choice? Do you still have to answer the questions? If engineering is your second choice, I'd still recommend answering those questions, because you could be offered admission to engineering, and that might be your choice in the end. So if that happens, then you might want to be eligible for these scholarships and awards. I'm going to scroll down a little bit and start from the bottom. Asks, how far can we go back when citing our achievements with grade 8 and 9? If they made a great impact on you, you can definitely list it as your top 3 achievements. It really is up to you. It's whatever had a greatest impact of you on your life. That's what we're looking for. Mohammed, you do not have to submit all of those documents. So we do not require any students to submit any additional documentation when it comes to proving that you were involved in X activity or proving that you were in sports or anything like that. The only things you really need to submit are your transcripts for admissions, and that goes to admissions. So there really is nothing else outside of your transcripts that need to be submitted to admissions to be eligible for the Prestige Awards. So all the information you're entering are you're self-identifying, and we have a disclaimer at the end indicating that what you're saying is true. So you do not have to submit any supporting documents outside of ensuring that your transcripts are submitted to admissions by the deadline, and the deadline to submit those is December 15th for our Prestige Awards. I've already talked about Pierre. Ali, you can submit any of your award achievements or things you've done, such as AP. If that's one of your top achievements, please list it. Max asks about after-school classes such as AP Chemistry or Physics. Would it count as extracurricular? No, they would not. They'd be considered part of academics. Cadets is definitely an extracurricular. So cadets is a great extracurricular, and I know a lot of cadets do community service as well. So Ahmed, I definitely list that. Jordan, you'd definitely be eligible based on what you're applying for, your BSc in psychology and your Bachelor in Community Rehab. You would be eligible for our Chancellor scholarships for sure. and you definitely should apply. We don't get a lot of Bachelor of Community Rehab apply for our awards and scholarships, and we really want to push them to do so. So make sure you do. There's no specific in your extracurricular. You can list everything possible if you want, but please make sure you have quality over quantity. You don't have to say I volunteered for a 2-hour period, because really that doesn't have that much of an impact. So I touched on Stephanie's question. I defined entrepreneurial. Touched on computer science is not engineering, so you don't want to apply for the engineering awards. If you're looking at doing med school, you do not have to apply for the Bachelor of Health Science. A lot of students do, but you could do biology, you could do chemistry, you can even do an arts degree and still get into med school. So talked about it. River asked what counts as community service. Community service tends to be service oriented, that you're doing in the community, for lack of a better way of explaining it. Could be volunteering, could be helping out at community groups. So like if you're involved in a faith-based community, or if you're involved in Big Brothers, Big Sisters, if you're involved in 4-H, those types of things. Rita, there's no reference letter that you need to submit. I'll quickly go through a few more before I move on, just because I don't want to be here all night. Bella asks, once you've submitted the awards application, are you able to edit it? Once you've submitted it, you can't go back, but if you do need to edit it, you can actually reach out to my team, as long as the deadline hasn't passed, and we can reopen it and you can make the edits. But make sure it's not once it's past the deadline, it's closed. There's nothing you can do. So make sure you submit by the deadline, and if you have to make changes, it's before the deadline. Gabe asks, does the University of Calgary have one application for all scholarships like some other institutions, or does each scholarship have a separate application form? For entering students, Gabe, there's only 2 applications. So there's the Prestige High School Awards, which I just went through, and then I will be going through the High School Awards application after this. Dual enrollment, I don't know what you mean, Tia, but I might be able to answer that. When it comes to admissions average, Ibrahim, you'll have to check with admissions. I don't follow what the competitive average is for you. So, Ahmed, there currently is not a mechatronics bachelor right now, but maybe there will be in the future. I don't know for sure. Jaddy, I would definitely include that. The impact that it has for anything you're doing at home, we want to see that as well. Daphne asks, for the chemistry major, can I apply for the health science award? No, it's only for the Bachelor of Health Science program. So you'd actually have to be applying for that program. Yes, Shahed, you fill in one application for all the Prestige awards. That is correct. Jordan, yes, I would still include it, even though it's just 1 year. Pierre, it's in the application. It's just our engineering has specific questions. Ahmed, a job you can list as your top 3 achievements. It's really up to you. I don't know what your top 3 achievements are. So yeah, so Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I thought maybe you were meaning like a joint degree. So we do have a dual credit program here. It's primarily for schools, high schools here in Calgary, where you can actually take university classes while you're in high school. So, but check with admissions or check with your school if you're here in Calgary to see what that looks like. Jacob, I would still list it. If you did service in your high school because of a scholarship, I'd still list it. We might dig in a little bit deeper, but I would still list it for sure. List as much as you possibly can. Daniil, when you go through your extracurricular activities, we only want grade 10, 11, 12. But when you talk about your community service in the statement, you can include your grade 8 and 9 volunteering. Okay, enough for questions. I'm going to keep going on. I'll list what my email is at the end, favor. Yeah, well, Manjot, I'll get to yours just after this. I don't want to constantly bog down on this. So I've got a bunch of presentations still to go. So now I'm going to talk about our second application that you'll need to submit, or you should submit. The reason why it's listed second is because I really want you to focus on our Prestige High School Awards first, and then look at our standard high school entrance awards. The reason why is because for one, Prestige Awards have a greater impact on you. They're a higher dollar value, so you really need to spend more effort and energy on applying for those. You have to be more thorough and more thoughtful in your responses, whereas high school awards are a lot more high school awards are a lot more, okay, I'm checking off a box here, I'm just filling in a little bit of information. It's a lot quicker to apply, and the deadline is a lot later. So the deadline to apply is March 1st. Doesn't matter if you submit December 3rd or if you submit March 1st, you'll have the same chance of receiving one based on your application. So in this application is where our bursaries lie for entering students as well, and that's the first section that you'll need to complete. So it'll be our financial needs section, and you really only have to complete this if you truly have a financial need. And the easiest way to explain how we calculate financial need here at the University of Calgary is if your costs while you're a student are more than your resources that you have available, then you definitely have a need. So if that's how it's going to be, then you definitely should complete this section. If it's not, if you've been lucky enough where your parents have an RESP for you and saved up enough for you, and you have a good chance of getting scholarships outside of that, then you might not need to submit this section. So you can click no and then just move on. But if you do click yes because you do have a need, you do have to select your marital status. So for the majority, it's single, but you could be single. We're living from home. So if you're from Calgary, you may be living with your parents or another family member. So you can click single at home, or if you're living away. So if you're an international student, for example, you're definitely away from home if you're coming to the university. So click single away, but you might also be separated. You might be a parent. You might be married or common law. So really, what you select in your marital status will pretty much move you forward in your application. So then from there, you'll be completing all of your cost on resource information. Please make sure you enter as much information as you can. If there's any area that has a dollar number or a field, do not leave it blank. If it's 0, then enter 0. You'll get an error if you leave it blank. So if, like, let's say your housing or your rent will be 0, then make sure you enter a 0. One thing to remember too, and a lot of students do have issues with this, is that these totals are for a standard undergraduate academic year. So most standard undergrad is just fall and winter. So make sure you include totals for the entire 8 months, so from September to April. Do not just put per month, because then your calculation won't be correct. Make sure it's September to April. So if you're if your rent will be $1,000 a month, then put in $8,000 because that's what it'll be for 4 months. Make sure you're realistic. If your resources are estimated by an assumption, do not include them. We've seen this before where students will put, they expect to work at a summer camp over the summer, but lo and behold, it's COVID, and now there's not very many summer jobs, or this last year there wasn't very many. So please don't include that if you're not sure of what you'll be doing. So, and then also if your expenses fluctuate each month, please try to average it out. So if you know that 1 month you've spent $200 on food, and then the next month you've spent $400, please put in an average of $300. And then there's a section in your financial need where you're going to put extenuating circumstances. These extenuating circumstances must impact your education. So if they don't have an impact on your education, they should not be listed, okay? And my team actually does an audit of this, and if there's something that's exuberant or out of the ordinary and has what we deem no impact on your education, they'll be deleted from your financial need assessment. Then the next section you'll complete is your future career plan. So we have certain donors that, or certain awards that are for specific career plans. I know right now you're entering university, and if you were like me, you would have no idea what you wanted to do in a career. I was originally in tourism, and then I wanted to be a writer, and then I was a teacher, and now I work in post-secondary. So your careers can go multiple different ways, but make sure you select off all careers that you potentially could be interested in. So that'll give you a better chance of receiving an award. Don't select everything, be realistic, but anything that you potentially have an interest in. The next section you'll complete are associations, societies, clubs, and organization. You're really just going to select whether or not you've been involved in them. You select everything. Thanks, Jordan. I appreciate that. Select all you've been involved in. Make sure you provide the required information as well. So we have certain awards for family members of AUPE, or if you were a family member of a Canadian military, those are the types of examples that you would complete here. The next section is residence. So normally we have your residence information, but just verify it here. The reason why residence is there because some awards are for specific regions, specific areas. We have awards that are specific for Calgary. We have awards that are specific for Banff and Canmore. We have those specific for Saskatchewan. Those are kind of the examples. Make sure you read the instructions on the page, and you want to enter what your permanent address is. So your permanent address pretty much is the address that you're at right now, which a good hint is where your parents live is looked like as your permanent address. And we also want to make sure that the address that you enter in there is also the same address that you have in your My UCalgary account or your student center. So please update that too. It's outside the application, but that's it. After the fact, you can do that. The next is your previous high school. So normally we will have your high school information there, but we don't know if you've transferred high schools from grade 10, 11, 12. Alberta students, we receive your transcript, and it's kind of broken down a little bit, but we don't know all the schools you've attended, and sometimes students are taking things online that might not be your primary school. So make sure you enter your school. Before you enter your high school, please make sure you use the little spyglass and search for the school. Across Canada, we have every school listed, and a lot of international schools we will have listed there. So before you start entering the information, please search for it. And then you want to include all schools you've attended in grade 10, 11, and 12. So pretty much all of your high school. And that's really all it is for the high school application. So the high school award application is pretty simple in comparison to the prestige award application, and that's why I say leave it to the end. Don't do that. Make sure you spend your time and effort on the Prestige High School Award application because it is a little bit more thorough, as I said before. Remember, there are deadlines that you need to meet. So for the Prestige Awards, it's December 1st. You have to apply before the end of the day on December 1st. So when I talk about end of the day, it's 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's when you need to apply. Same time deadline for high school awards, but that's not till March 1st, 2022. So you have lots of time for that, multiple months. And then supporting documents and transcripts for Prestige Awards, it is transcripts that you need to be able to make sure you submit, and it's not to my team. It's actually to admissions because all transcripts are processed through our admissions team. It'll also help for you submitting your transcripts early so you can actually get admitted early so you can plan accordingly to that. And then high school awards, again, if you're applying late, make sure you submit your transcripts by the March 15th deadline. And then we also have the only really other supporting documents we require is we do have awards that are specific to our Indigenous students, and organizations like the Rupert's Land and others really want to ensure that we do have identification documents, whether it be genealogy or your Métis Nation of Alberta card or your Indigenous Affairs cards. Those need to be submitted by March 15th to be eligible for those. If you're lucky enough to be an award recipient, what's amazing, the majority, well, I'll just break it down a little bit. So our primary communication strategy here at the University of Calgary is via email. So if you are lucky enough to receive an award, you'll receive an email notification about the award. If you're lucky enough and you're a Canadian student and you receive a Prestige Award, you will actually hear this voice over the phone. I will call you to offer that. I will start making calls for Prestige Awards in March, and all of them will be done in March. If you're an international student and you receive one, because of the time change and different things like that, you'll receive an email. For our high school awards, all of our awarding happens at the end of April for those. So if you apply before the March 31st, it's not till the end of April that you'll find out. But we always make sure that you know whether or not you've received an award, or whether you have received an award, I should say, by the end of April, so you can make a decision on your admissions deposit. So admission deposit deadline is May 1st. So you'll know if you received an award or not by that time. So if you don't receive an email or a phone call from me, that means you haven't received an award, unfortunately. If you are lucky enough to receive an award, all of our awards, the payments split evenly over fall and winter terms. So if you receive the President's Admission Scholarship of $5,000, you'll get $2,500 in the fall and $2,500 in the winter. They are applied to your tuition and fees in September for fall and in January for winter. In order to maintain eligibility for any award scholarships or bursaries here at the University of Calgary, you have to maintain full-time enrollment, which is a minimum of 9 units, or for a lot of students, think of it as 9 credits, which is 3 courses. So 3 courses per term for both fall and winter term to maintain your eligibility. Before I touch on continuing student awards, I'm just going to go through a few different questions. I know I stopped with Manjot. Would participating in math contests be considered extracurricular activities since they're optional? Yes, of course. Definitely. Yeah. Jordan, if your parents have an RESP, but it wouldn't be enough for all uni years, then definitely submit the financial need information. Mika, these bursaries are all under the high school award application. So it's under My Financials in your My UCalgary account. And then there's a button that says Apply for Undergraduate Awards. Oh, Jordan, you're answering my questions for me. Thank you. Yeah, honestly, that's really up to you what you want to major in. If you're wanting to apply for pediatrics, I don't do med school admissions, so I don't know. You may want to check with Cummings School of Medicine to find out. But really, it's a lot of students do science-based courses a lot of the times, but they could be arts or it could be our Bachelor of Health Science. The whole presentation will be posted on our Choose UCalgary YouTube channel, as well as will be on our website probably later this week. And it might be emailed to all the participants, but yeah, it will be available. Jordan's answering all my questions, it seems. If you're planning to move in with someone in Calgary, would you enter that address as well? You definitely can. You can have more than one address. I would recommend just putting where your permanent address is, not where you're going to live. Rita asks, will we need to put reference emails for any of these awards? No, we don't require them. So we have a large disclaimer at the end that you would accept that if the information is proven to be incorrect or something, you'll have academic misconduct and you may not be admitted here. So we always recommend that that you be as truthful as you possibly can, but we trust our students, we trust our applicants. We don't have to be like Big Brother and always want you to prove you're telling the truth. We believe you. So Jade asks, how do you submit your transcripts? You do it through your My UCalgary portal. You can definitely do that through your application. Koji asks, do you need to submit your transcripts if you're an Alberta student? You do not. They automatically get sent to us. So that's a good thing. If you haven't been involved with extracurriculars in the past few years due to COVID and other stuff, I would still list what you might have been involved with, especially in the community service statement. Everyone's on a level playing field, so a lot of students haven't been involved because you can't go to those community associations right now because of COVID. So make sure, and if you just started, that's a great one to put in there. Just advise how many hours you're going to be doing. Really explain the impact it's going to have on you. Shahid, is there a maximum amount of money you can earn? If you're talking about the max amount of awards you can receive, we do follow a policy that was approved by senior leadership years and years and years ago, but it's what's called our equitable distribution policy. So that means we try to get as many awards to as many students. For our prestige awards, they're such high dollar value, so we do not stack too many. We will stack automatic admission scholarships on top of it. So let's say you receive a chancellor's scholarship and the president's admission scholarship and an IB. So your first year, you might be eligible for $22,000. But we try to limit, when it comes to our high school awards, the stacking to a maximum of $15,000. John asks, if I receive one of the awards, would I have to maintain my grades during your program? For our prestige awards, you definitely do. Anything that's renewable, so that means it's you available for your first, second, third, and onwards. You do have to maintain a minimum GPA, but it depends on which scholarship and award that is. Ali asks, sorry, you might have already answered this, but can you accept an award before you know if you've been accepted? You will not be offered an award if you have not been accepted. So we make sure that you've been accepted before we offer you any scholarships and awards, which by the time we actually start offering, we will verify that anyone who might be eligible has been offered. And if you haven't been offered, we advocate on your behalf to be offered admission. So yeah. Pierre asks, may I know what you mean by 9 units for fall and winter? So here at the University of Calgary, we look at one single course as 3 units, standard course as 3 units. So you're looking at 3 courses per term, so fall and winter. So three courses, 3 times 3 is 9, so 9 units per fall and winter. For renewable awards, you do not have to apply for them every year. The renewal will just be done by us. Thanks, Jordan, again. Abby, I'd still apply. Put in your resources, and if your resources outweigh your costs, then you won't be eligible, but that's okay. You can still submit that information. The chat should show up in the recording, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Kyle, you can list it, definitely. The question about software engineering. Well, the question is it part of computer science? So in our Bachelor of Science, in our Faculty of Science, we have a Bachelor of Science in Community or Computer Science. But then in our our Schulich School of Engineering, we also have a software engineering program. So they're a little bit different. So if you're applying for software engineering, then you're looked at as an engineer. So you can apply for the Seymour Schulich Engineering. Pierre, no, it's not 3 undergraduate programs, it's 3 undergraduate courses. So it's just courses. Couple more questions before I go forward. Daniil, when do we choose the university courses? So when you apply for admissions, you choose 2 programs, first choice and a second choice of the programs, and then you don't start registering for your classes until May. That happens later. So. Tia, I don't know for your U.S. students. I don't know what our percentage is. I think it's pretty high, but I don't know exactly what that would be. John asks, can I apply for awards if I didn't get the first time? If you're applying for admissions again and you applied before, you can definitely submit an application again. Oh, can you apply for awards during my next term? No, I'll go into continuing awards now. So I'll answer the rest of the questions a little bit later. I'll focus on the questions a little bit later, but I'll just go forward for now, just because I want this session to be done by 8 o'clock, and I've still got a few more slides to go through. So I really touched on our high school awards, so both our prestige and our high school awards. But we do offer continuing student awards. So I don't know if you noticed in one of my first slides on statistics, we gave out actually over $24 million this last year to University of Calgary students, and 6 million of that is for entering. That means that we have another 18 million for continuing students. So you'll apply for awards every year. Each year you can apply for awards. So you finish your first year. Our continuing undergraduate student awards open June 1st. You apply before the deadline of August 1st, and you could be eligible for additional awards that range anywhere from $20,000 all the way down to $500. So we do have some small ones, but you potentially could receive more awards on top of what you've already received in your first year. The one big thing is you must have completed 24 units in the fall and winter term. So in order to maintain your eligibility for your first year, if you receive an award, I did say you have to have 9 units per term, or a total of 18 units. But for continuing students, for continuing awards, you do have to complete 24 units. So that's 4 courses per term, which isn't a full course load. It's still full-time, but it's a little bit higher than the lowest it can be, which is 60% course load. To be considered a full-time student. So it's about an 80% course load. which the majority of our students do anyways. And the majority of our students actually have a full course load, which tends to be 5 courses per term. Now I'll quickly touch on some other awards that we help administer here at the University of Calgary. The first one for Canadian students, and if you're looking in getting into a science, technology, engineering, or math program, this is something you really want to take note of. If you're a high achieving student, it's what's called our Schulich Leader Scholarship. The Schulich Leader Scholarship is probably one of the most prestigious, or it is one of the most prestigious outside of the Loran scholarship in Canada. It's offered at 20 different institutions across the country. It's $100,000 for an engineering student and $80,000 for students in other STEM programs. And those STEM programs or science, technology, and mathematics programs cannot lead to medicine. So if you're looking at getting into medicine, unfortunately, the scholarship isn't for you. But the way this scholarship works is you have to be nominated by your high school. Each high school can submit one nominee. So if you're really interested in this and you're at Western Canada High School, make sure you go and talk to your counselor to say that you're interested in the Schulich Leader Scholarship. That's just an example. This last year, we had 6 recipients. We did the year before 2, so we had 3 for engineering and 3 for science. The amazing thing about this scholarship is that you become a member of a network of Schulich leaders across the country. This is just their 10th year of offering the scholarship, and they've done amazing things. The image that you see on this page right now is of Manpreet Dial. She was a Schulich Leader scholar and then went on to being a Rhodes Scholar and has developed apps for Garmin and did an internship with Garmin and has done some amazing things. So our Schulich leaders lead lives that turn into amazing things. So if you're going into engineering or science, technology, and math, make sure you talk to your high school counselor if you're here in Canada. If you're international, unfortunately, it's not available for you. The Schulich Leader Foundation wanted just to focus on Canadian talent. But again, go bug your high school counselor or someone in your high school, because again, they can only nominate one student. And the nomination deadline is January 26th, and it may seem like a long time from now, but it does come pretty quickly. Then here for Alberta students, we also administer Alberta Student Aid Scholarships and Awards. They're only available for Alberta residents. The one that I really want you to focus on is the Alexander Rutherford. If you're an Alberta student, if going to high school in Alberta, this is one you should always apply for. You can apply next August, so the application doesn't open for a while for those who are admitted fall 2022. But make sure you do apply, because if you have a high school average above 80% in grade 10, 11, or 12, you will pretty much automatically get this scholarship. Just make sure you apply. Some students forget to apply for it, even though it's free money. So you should make sure you do so. And then we also administer other external awards. So I always recommend don't just focus on all scholarships and awards that we offer. There's lots of other award scholarships and bursaries available through outside organizations. There's multiple through clubs or different organizations. You might be sponsored. A couple big ones that I always recommend that you look into is for domestic and international students is Universities Canada. From there, if you just Google Universities Canada, they have a whole bunch of different scholarships and awards that are listed there. So make sure you look into those. And then as we're the University of Calgary, we're located in Calgary. There's a philanthropic foundation here in Calgary called the Calgary Foundation. I'd recommend you look into award scholarships that they have through the Calgary Foundation. And then a good spot to start looking is just go to our website. So just type in ucalgary.ca/awards, and we have a section for government and external awards. From there, a lot of different organizations are listed. And then you can also search our searchable database for external awards. The search criteria, put in external, and you'll see a listing there. And we update that on a regular basis. So that's really all I'm going to focus on for award scholarships and bursaries. I will touch a little bit on some other opportunities you may have here as a student. So I'm going to touch on financial aid really quickly because that's something that my team administers as well. So we help administer government student loans, and for this last year, there were over 11,000 student loan borrowers. So don't be afraid of applying for a student loan because we have a lot of student loan borrowers. We helped support over $175 million in financial aid. And here at the university, we help administer for Canadian students. You apply through your province, and we help administer federal and provincial loans, as well as federal and provincial grants. And we also are, so for any listeners who are international and are US students, we are a Title IV eligible school. So we administer US direct subsidized, non-subsidized, as well as Parent Plus loans. And we also help administer Sallie Mae Smart Option loans. So if you're a US student, we can support you that way by helping you administer some of the financial aid that you actually need. For other international students, unfortunately, we don't. You might be able to apply for financial aid through your country of origin, but we don't have all of that information for the 200 plus countries that are across the country or across the world to really understand what they have. Just Canadian and US at the moment. When I talk about student loans, student loans are scary. There is debt, but there's also grants that are included in student loans. So when you apply, you'll be assessed for loans and grants are things that don't need to be paid back. So like this last year, I know the federal government increased their grant funding. So eligible students receive $6,000 in grant funding. So for example, the maximum a single student who's in an undergraduate program in the province of Alberta, the maximum funding they can receive is $15,000 per year. So with the grants this year, that means you only have to pay back 9,000 of it. 6,000 you don't have to pay back. So just something to think of. I'm not saying you need to do it now. I'm just saying there are options for you if you don't receive award scholarships or bursaries. Next, I really want to touch on a program that we have here at the University of Calgary for financial literacy. So when you're a student here, we have a program that's called MoneySmart, which will help you with workshops. They have programs, they have one-on-one budget coaching. There are lots of resources available. I always recommend there is a online personal finance program that they offer, and by completing it, there's incentive of $1,000 award by completing it. It's self-paced. There's multiple different modules and lots of activities, quizzes. It just helps you learn. So some of the topics you learn are budgeting for sure, but then there's even topics on investing. There's topics on being like financial tech savvy kind of, and on lots of different options like that. How to protect your information. Those are types of things that are there, and they also talk about different resources that are available that are outside of what we have here at the university. So next steps. So as I said before, there is kind of a path to pay for your education. We always recommend for any students right now is this is a time for you to really explore. So you've applied for admissions, or you're looking at different institutions, you're looking at University of Calgary as one. Really look into what scholarships, loans are available through your high school or home country. Make sure you apply for scholarships and awards. That's what this whole session was about, was how to submit a better application here at the University of Calgary when it comes to your award scholarships and bursaries. Also look into, okay, are your parents willing to support you, or is family members supporting you? Can you go to the bank of mom and dad for your time here? You've attended this webinar, which is amazing that you've got a leg up on a lot of people. Make sure you apply for entrance awards. And then from there, it's really, you'll start classes, but that's not where your journey ends. So just because you've applied for scholarships and awards, you've received something this year, that doesn't mean you should stop looking for other avenues to help support you when you go through your education. A good one is money from a part-time job. So on this kind of pathway, I focus on international because international always want to know this, but international students can work part-time while they study. So that's a great thing. But domestic students, I know when I did my undergraduate, I worked all the time. I worked at the gym. It was a great place to work at the university because you can pretty much, well, I shouldn't say this, but I was doing my homework while working. Then we always recommend do MoneySmart. It actually teaches you some really amazing financial literacy. And then from there, after your first year, make sure you apply for continuing student awards. It opens June 1st. Make sure you apply after your first year. And then the amazing thing too, that the university has a lot of opportunities that are paid when it comes to enhancing your education. So there's a lot of work integrated learning. So there's co-ops, internships. There's also paid research opportunities. A lot of students do undergraduate research that you complete after a second, third, fourth year, really enhancing your resume for when you want to go to grad school after undergrad potentially, and you actually can research some interesting things. And that's really it for my presentation. I said it would take roughly an hour, but it's taken a little bit more just because I did answer a lot of questions throughout. I'll take some more questions now, but if you really want to contact us, you can always call us at 403-210-7625. You can also get us via kind of an email. We have a contact form. So if you just go to ucalgary.ca/contact-registrar, you'll be able to submit it and it'll go directly to my team. If you're looking for more information and want to do some searching on award scholarships and bursaries that might be available, just go to ucalgary.ca/awards. If you're looking more about financial aid, what those options look like, just go to ucalgary.ca/student loans. And then lastly, if you're looking at the financial literacy, you can just go to ucalgary.ca/MoneySmart. That's really it for the presentation. I'll answer some more of the questions that I see here. I think it's really, one question is, can you repeat the latest date you'll receive confirmation for an award? The latest you'll receive it is the end of April. So all of our award selection is done before the end of April, before you have to make a decision on your admissions deposit, which that deadline is May 1st. Changing a major in the portal, you cannot do that. You have to submit an application or an email to appchange@ucalgary.ca. They'll be able to help you there. So Jordan, I think your question is based on when I was talking about the Schulich Leader Scholarship. For those who are considering med school, it might not be your best avenue because Seymour Schulich, who actually funds our Schulich School of Engineering and also funds this scholarship, he has a school of medicine in Ontario and he spent a lot of money on medicine, so he doesn't want this scholarship to go towards medicine. So Dia asks, are you considered an Alberta resident if you get permanent residency there? Alberta residency is for if you do receive your permanent residency and you're in Alberta and you've lived in Alberta for 12 consecutive months, then you're considered an Alberta resident. Rupa asks, this is a great question. For admission scholarship, which courses are used for the calculation of a 95% average? It is what average you've been received for admissions. So the courses that are used for admissions will be used to constitute the average we will use for the President's Admission Scholarship. Jordan, you're right. They should have a box for just applying for grants, but there are ways of doing that. So if you just know that grant funding is X amount, so $6,000, for example, that's all you request in your application. Danielle asks, does U of C offer jobs? There are lots of jobs on campus. We have our McEwen Student Center where there's a lot of like food service jobs. So there's also jobs that are offered in the faculty. There's jobs at the gym. There's jobs in the library. There's jobs. We have student staff in our department. So there's lots of jobs that are available across the campus for sure. John, I don't have the links right now, but you will get access to them after. Pierre, yes, the Haskayne School of Business scholarships are only for those who are enrolled in the Haskayne School of Business. Mohammed, for having a job, should we apply? You can definitely search for them. You definitely should. Daniil, are you looking at? You definitely can live and work at the University of Calgary from April to September. It's not, you don't have to go away. So if you start in September, students live here year round. Edgeminder, I said before, for the admission scholarships, we use your admissions average. So whatever courses are used for your admissions are what we will use for the President's Admission Scholarship. So if you actually receive the President's Admission Scholarship, it will be in your offer for admission. So if you have an average of 95% or higher for whatever you're trying to be admitted to, then that is what your average will be. So thanks, Jordan. Jordan, you've been great at answering all my questions. I appreciate it. So that seems like all the questions. Thanks again for attending. Again, this recording will be available next week. If you have any questions, please reach out to my team. Again, it's UCalgary/contact registrar, and then you'll just be able to fill out a form that'll go directly to my team. They can answer those questions. But again, make sure you apply. Make sure you apply for the Prestige Awards first, and then your high school awards after. But other than that, I hope everybody has a great night, and thanks for coming. Thanks for being such active participants, and hopefully this presentation was informative and that you submit the best application you possibly can. Thanks, and have a great night.